Hi everybody. I'm down here in Pompano Beach with my grandma Bernice, who we have talked about and everyone has heard about her, but she is the mastermind behind the nutrition of our family. And I wanted to interview her on video here so everyone can understand where I got it from and where we all got it from and how she's made it to 99 as of yesterday.
Yeah.
And sharp as a tack. So between you being 99 and sharp and still having, perfectly sound mind, keeping Grandpa healthy and having him running the New York City Marathon into his 80s.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Well, I can't take all the credit because he was a superb athlete to begin with, but I do take credit for keeping him alive because it was almost 100 when he died, and his parents died when they were 68 and 70, and so something had to happen to keep him going. And fortunately, I think the turning point came when I found out that I was pre-diabetic. I was stunned to even contemplate anything like that. And so I had to completely overhaul my diet, even though I thought I was eating healthy. And I think that was the big turning point, because once I did that, the first 5 years after I did that, I never got sick and never even had a cold.
Now, how old were you then?
About 50.
50.
And, until 50, we ate, well, we thought we were eating good, but we ate too much sugar and not nutritionally dense foods. And once I got into learning about diet and nutrition and the difference between organic and non-organic, and I pretty much turned to organic from that time on and went way out of my way in order to get it. At one point, I used to have to make a 60-mile round trip to get organic food, and I did it on a regular basis. And we overhauled the diet. We made sure that whatever we ate was nutritionally dense, not wasting calories, not eating junk food, and we stuck to it all those years. It just becomes automatic after a while. And when you see somebody else indulging in something they shouldn't, you just automatically say, there goes an open heart surgery case. And we did very well. Grandpa had some big surgeries, but he recovered immediately, and you would never know anything had ever happened to him. And when he started running marathons when he was in the 70s, that was unbelievable. And then he started rollerblading. People, the first time he fell, when he first started rollerblading, not realizing that you have to rollerblade on a smooth surface, and he was caught on a roadway where everything was with blank spaces and dips and curves. So he fell and he got a concussion of the brain. Winds up in the hospital, and everybody's laughing. How did he get here? Well, he was rollerblading. Well, he's only 70 whatever. And he became the laughingstock of the hospital. They wanted to know how he was rollerblading at that age. But he just put the rollerblades on and rollerbladed away.
Yeah. Like you did everything. Swimming, tennis,
Everything.
everything. Ice
Whatever
skating.
sport there was. And every time he injured himself, I'm the one that saved him. So I have to take credit for that. I would say a cat has 9 lives. He had 18 lives. And I saved him every single time. But it was a pleasure saving him because he responded so fast and so well that it was almost like automatic. And the last time when he was 98 years old and he fell, not his fault, but he fell and broke his hip and he got surgery to repair it. Most people don't even recover from hip surgery. He recovered at 98 years old. And it was just amazing.
And wanted to go swimming.
So you, at 99 years old, most people at 99 years old are drooling on themselves. And who has ever met a 99-year-old woman that's as sharp as this woman right here? Can tell stories, tell you everything, all kinds of complicated information.
Yeah, I still play bridge.
She'll plays bridge and
does her own finances
Yep.
and runs her life just
Yeah.
like usual.
there's Mama.
Hi.
We're all here. The close family's here. Uncle Paul, Cousin Abby, Elsie. There's little baby Elsie, who is named after Abby's mama, Elsie, who is Grandpa's sister. So I have a very unique opportunity to have my whole family here, the closest family. There's Jax and my sister Sela over there in the pool. Really great place we have for Grandma's 99th birthday. And I thought it was a great opportunity to get the information straight from the Queen, who did it all.
Yeah, well, you really have to watch your diet, and it's not a joke. You can't really cheat. Many diets say you can be on the diet and cheat one day. You can't cheat. It just doesn't work. And not only that, you have to be very physically active. And we were physically active the whole time. We were always doing something physical, dancing, playing tennis, skiing. My grandpa was a lifeguard. He was a swimming instructor. And whatever sport there was, he was when he gained knowledge of it, he was always floated to the top, and it was no big deal for him to even think about learning anything. When he went the first time skiing, and we had never been skiing, we didn't know anything about it. We just thought it was another activity because we wanted something physical to do. And they put him in the top class right away. And he became an instructor. When he became an a ski instructor, his finishing score was 110 because 100 wasn't enough for him. And he was the oldest one in that class to become an instructor, but he was the one that was at the top.
So you said staying active. I think a lot of people get stuck when they get into a bad diet and they're feeling lousy and they go, how am I going to go do something like skiing? But I seem to feel like when I eat really, really well, the energy level is there and you can do those things. Did you guys see that as you changed your diet? That you're
he was an enormous eater because he was moving all the time. And what somebody didn't finish, he could finish 3 meals in one and never even give it a second thought. And I always had to have food ready for him, because if he said he was hungry, I'd eat right away. And I had loads of stuff ready to go, and I learned how to do it.
Like what? What did you have?
I used to bake a whole score of sweet potatoes,
Yeah.
and I had those in the refrigerator so that if he wanted something right away, he got the sweet potato, was organic, so he could eat the skin and all the nutrition's in the skin.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had beans and rice ready to go all the time in case he was that hungry. I prepared rice in advance, brown rice, organic, put it in the freezer, and then when I needed it, I just took off what I needed and added it to whatever bean we had. We ate them all, and he just gobbled it up. And I seasoned it well with cumin. I loved cumin.
Yeah.
And garlic and stuff like that. And he ate every scrap that I gave him.
But it was all good. It was always good food.
Always good. And
I used to go to visit, and I would have bean soup,
oh, you had the black bean soup
the black
that you
bean
loved,
soup, and the navy bean soup.
and then the salad. I couldn't fill you up with salad.
Salad and a pita bread. That's what we had.
And I learned to make your dressing, and it's still the good way to do it.
Yep.
And you gobbled it up, and I would make you one salad, and you would finish it before I turned around. At least 3 times I had to make you salad.
Yep.
Now, always had to have that black bean soup ready.
Yeah. The black bean and the navy bean. I loved them
Yeah.
both. They were so good.
And you know, for breakfast, I had like 10 different grains. Every morning, I made a big bowl of a grain. Well, I called it cereal, but it was really just a grain. But I had 10 different kinds of grains, so we didn't eat the same thing 2 days in a row.
Everyone's
And-
afraid of grains now because this gluten thing happened, and
Well,
everyone's afraid of them now. What grains were you using?
amaranth, and of course the oat, and kasha.
Quinoa, right? You use quinoa?
Kasha is
Ka-
different than quinoa.
Yeah, but you use quinoa.
Quinoa, yeah. And there were 10 different ones. Whatever one came out, I got it.
I think that's where organic comes in big,
Probably.
because the spraying that's going on to dry the grains and everything. I believe that is what's happening with why there's a gluten thing. I don't think it's a gluten thing. I think it's a glyphosate thing because all the grains are sprayed. And think 50 years ago when you guys were doing that,
They
it
didn't
was
do
not
that.
like it is now.
Well,
we were in a,
we were lucky to grow up when the soil had nutrition in it. And I can't vow for that now.
yeah, things are quite a bit different now as far as
Yeah.
organic and what's sprayed on crops and
Right.
this. So that's
But it's
a
still
hiccup.
more important now than it was then.
Yeah.
Because even now they say you can't get an oat of any kind that hasn't got some spray on it. Well, even though it says organic, there's some spray on any oat product.
Every grain. Any grain because of desiccation. Desiccation is just a normal farming practice now, and Roundup is used for it. It's just what it is. So there is weed killer on all the grains now. And that sucks. So the eternal search for a grain.
And then I would think that then sprouting would come into
Sprouting is great.
Oh,
then you're getting
I sprouted all the time.
organically grown grains that are then chemically changed because they're sprouted. And so maybe that might deal with some of what's
Well,
sprayed.
living
if you
food,
have organic-
being able to wash the grains really clean.
Right.
The problem, like with breads and pastas and all the prepared stuff, you can't wash it when it comes out of the field, because if you wash it, it germinates and then
But
you
then
can't
if
grind
you,
it.
If you sprout it, you're germinating it. It's changing
Yeah.
it chemically, which is giving you actually more enzymes,
Sure.
greater nutrition when you sprout. So
Yeah.
the sprouted breads that are organic are a much better bet.
Sure. And they're washed,
They're
so you've washed off as much as you can.
Chemically,
Mhm.
because your enzymes are now activated,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
eating actually a plant.
Living food.
Right.
Yeah,
And
living
you can
food.
make breads out of sprouted grains because I've taken lots of classes
Yeah.
where
Well, you know,
we've made stuff from sprouted.
I even soak my walnuts and my almonds, and they start to sprout.
Yeah,
And that's a better way to eat them
yeah,
than eating them the way they
right.
get when you buy them.
Sure.
Yeah, and I got the sprouted pumpkin seeds too. They're
Yeah.
delicious. They're really good.
So here's a nutrition class. This is the master right here. This is how you do it. Follow the recipe. Don't cheat. Stay off of
Don't
sugar.
cheat.
What was the thing you said for years? Sugar is
Enemy number one.
public enemy number one.
Well, it certainly was for me because I had a rude awakening, and my friend who took the same test that I did, that Dr. Atkins advocated, that everybody laughed at, it saved my life. It saved his life too. He had actually diabetes. I didn't. I was pre-diabetic, and in 2 weeks my sugar returned to normal. But he had to work on it, and he didn't wind up with any medication either. It was all diet related, but he had to work harder than I did. Because once mine went down, and I eliminated sugar and white rice and white flour, that was it. And I never had to look back. But if I had not detected that at the time I did, I would have been diabetic. And when you're diabetic, you open yourself up to an easy death.
Yeah.
And so you don't want that. And
So-
I meet people, in the dining room where I live now, and I can't believe that I'm seeing older people ordering ice cream for dessert night after night after night, and they eat the ice cream all the way down to the bottom. And I keep saying to myself, don't they know what they're eating? But they obviously don't, because they keep ordering it. And one woman keeps telling me, her doctor tells her to watch what she should eat. And while she's telling me this, she's ordering ice cream for dessert.
It seems to be this disconnect that people don't seem to fully accept, that what goes in the mouth affects how the body functions. It's magic to me.
This is, and I know this woman. I've had dinner with her many times, and same thing happens. She'll always say, "My doctor tells me I have to watch my sugar." And meanwhile, she puts jelly on her toast, and she eats a lot of bread. I don't eat bread except maybe a quarter of a bagel on Sunday when they serve it.
For your seed.
Otherwise, I don't eat bread in the dining room. I don't normally eat bread or potatoes because I don't want the carbs. So I'm always looking out for the balance of the carbs and the protein. And it's always in the back of my mind. It's just automatic. I can't even help it. And you have to you choose to use the low glycemic fruits, which are the berries, and that's another thing, when I started using blueberries, I've been using blueberries every single day for all those
And
years.
walnuts. And walnuts.
Walnuts.
We use walnuts every day, right?
Because that's for the brain.
You know, it's funny. There's something about the shape of the food seems to match where it goes
Yes,
in your
they
head,
say
and
walnuts in the
walnuts look
brain.
like a brain, so it's brain
Yeah.
food.
Tomato has the heart shape.
Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff like that.
So, I keep telling everybody, you gotta watch what you're doing. It just doesn't automatically right itself. You have to take charge. And it's not as easy when you're living in a senior residence where they serve you food and your choices are limited. It was, a lot different when I chose my own stuff and I knew where it came from and I kept it simple. But if you read a label and you see 20 things that you can't pronounce, you don't want to eat it. But people don't want to read labels. I read labels I don't eat anything unless I can read the label. But there's a point when you're living where you're not in control of your diet unless you want to double down on what you're doing. You can't know what's in the food or where it came from. If it's prepared nutritionally or if they tossed in already prepared ingredients that have a million chemicals in them. You have no way of knowing. So I figured, well, since 99, it'd take a few years to catch up with me.
Well, you just eat at our house and you eat good organic food.
Farm food. Farm food.
Well,
Grandma come to visit when we were at the farm a few years ago, and it didn't matter what we brought out. One of everything. That's what she said. I want one of everything. Give me one of everything.
I love the fresh from the farm eggs. I just love them, and especially the duck eggs.
Yeah.
Those are an experience that someone who never had one cannot believe. I could not believe the first time I had it. And most people don't even know they're all duck eggs. But you sent me once a whole bunch of eggs that came from different places.
Yeah.
They're all different colors, different sizes, and they all are eggs.
So how about 99 years? What was food like 99 years ago? Where did it come from?
Well, when we were kids, we were very poor, and so my parents are immigrants, so they didn't really buy into the new stuff. They wanted to keep the traditions that they were familiar with, and maybe those foods worked where they came from. It was a different lifestyle and also a different life expectancy. If you live to be 48, they consider that old age.
Mm-hmm.
So who knew? I mean, some of these things that my mother made were absolutely delicious, but nutritionally, not good.
So where did it come from, though? Like, there wasn't a supermarket.
There were farmers, we lived in a countrified area when I was growing up. So some of the things, we had trees on the property that gave us cherries and apples and pears. And then my mother would can them. My mother canned every year. Whatever it was, she canned. So we always had something over the winter. And now you don't see that anywhere, but I used to see it all the time.
My house. Happens at my house.
And she knew what to do. I don't know how she knew it. But I guess they had a lot of practice in the old country. And, a lot of the things they did there, they tried to do here. And I always have to laugh at the way, we used to go to the grocer. They never had money to pay the grocer when it was off season. So the grocer had to keep tabs on our bill. And when you went shopping, the grocer would take out a big bag and he would write down the amount that you owed to each item that you bought. He would write it on the bag, he would add it up, and that was what you owed. And I can't imagine doing that now when you go to a supermarket and you buy 20 things. But that's all they had. That's how that will operate. And my parents bought the bare necessities, and we managed to survive, but I wasn't aware nutritionally until I really got that rude awakening. I mean, I had a feeling there was a program that I found on nutrition that was the only one at the time that gave out nutritional advice, and it caught my attention and I really identified with it. And so I started becoming nutritionally aware, but it was minimal compared to what I know now. It was all there, but so hard to do when you don't know anybody else is doing it. And it's only one program that you hear maybe once in a while. I don't remember how often he was on, but he was the first nutritionist that became public. And then after that, I started following Gary No, and he was all nutrition. And that was a big source of my guide for nutrition. And he's written a lot of books, so, we didn't have a telephone to look things up. We had to look things up manually. Yeah. And so he wrote books. I had to get the books out of the library and read them, follow them up, and try to understand them. And I kept records of his program for many, many years. And he researched every single topic that you could imagine, and topics that I knew nothing about, but he brought them into the public sphere. And it was a good thing to know that there are things out there that you're not aware of because they're not happening to you at the moment. But a lot of the people that may have grown up when I did and were not aware, when I would go to a doctor and he took my history and he would come to the diabetic part and he was getting ready to check it off and he would say diabetes and I would say no, and he would look at me and he would say diabetes, and I would say no, because everybody else would say yes. And boy, you don't need that. That's the worst thing you want to have.
Because there's sugar everywhere.
It's so easy to control.
Yeah, but there's sugar everywhere.
Yeah, I know. That's why I read labels.
It's just as bad as heroin, but heroin has been branded bad, and sugar is just accepted. But it's just as bad. It'll kill you just as bad.
I think it is. I mean, if I had become diabetic, I'm sure I wouldn't have lived that long.
No, you wouldn't be here today. And you wouldn't be as sharp as you are because you'd have been looking at a stroke. And that's what happens. I mean,
Oh God!
That's
You
what
know, all
happened.
My nephew and my nephew's son. No, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, and his son. That's my nephew. They both had diabetes, and they both died from it. And they both died from it at the same age, 67. And I didn't follow all the times that my brother-in-law was in the hospital because I wasn't really able to understand his problem. I just knew he was sick. I knew he was in the hospital. I really didn't know why. But I knew it had something to do with diabetes. But when my nephew got it, and he should have been aware because his father had it, and maybe he was aware, I don't know, because he was not a dummy. He got to a point where he collapsed on the job when he was 60. He was a very college-educated man, but he chose to work to become a sheriff. And he collapsed on the job, and they put him in the hospital, and he was in a coma for 1 whole month. And while he was in a coma, they did several things to his body. And they operated on him for something, and I think they did other diagnoses of his problems. And they gave him a 10% chance to live. And I think one of the things that kept him alive, well, two of the things. First of all, when you're in the police department, they post a policeman at your bedside 24 hours a day. So he was never alone. Plus, his son never left his side. He slept there, he ate there, he was with his father the whole time. And they gave him 10% chance to live. He came out of his coma and they revived him, and he went through rehab, and he really looked great. He felt great. He had a big belly before he collapsed, and because he was a monk, he lost his belly, and he really looked fabulous. I was so happy to see that, and I thought, what better lesson could he have than that? Surviving when they gave him a 10% chance to live. But apparently he didn't stick with it because he still had the diabetes. So first they cut off one toe, then they cut off another toe, then they cut off his foot, then they cut off up to the knee, then they had to cut off the rest of the foot. So he had all those operations, and he lost the whole leg. But he did live for 7 years. Under those circumstances, can you imagine how much he would have lived if he had taken care of himself? But he didn't. Anyhow,
If only.
I'm gonna have breakfast.
All right, it's lunchtime, breakfast time, snack time. But this is the proof right here. This is the lady. Look at that delicious zucchini pie. My favorite food when I was a little kid. That my mama makes and my sister made.
Fabulous.
My boy.
I got this out of the river.
Good. So
Fabulous.
we're gonna say goodbye now. Thank you, Grandma. You want to be sharp when you're 99.
Yeah.
This is how you do it.
Thank
this
you.
wonderful woman.
This guy's got a soft spot in my heart. He takes advantage of me because he knows I can't say no to him.
Say no to what? I just want to take care of you. You took care of me?
And you're still 5 years old.
I'm still 5 years old. All right, everybody. So I thought that would be a cool experience to hear where it came from, where I got it from, and a little bit of information about how to do it and how to stay sharp late into your 90s. 364 more days to 100. No problem.
Well, with food like this, you can live.
This isn't such a bad life right here, living out here next to the water, the palm trees.
She did.
Wow.
All right, guys.
Delicious.
Remember to like our
And
videos.
you grew up gardening.
And I grew up gardening with Mama.
That's right.
Yeah, and
Organic gardening.
it all started with me planting.
Yeah.
We had a strip when I bought my semi-detached house, and there was the downstairs had a garage, and next door had a garage, and there was a strip this big between the garages, and I planted there. That was my first experience of me planting a seed. And once I planted, I couldn't get enough of digging in the garden. And I worked in my garden, and I made mistakes. I cut off a rose bush when I shouldn't have. But I did have a nice garden. I did have nice grass, even though it was only a tiny plot. And I kept saying to myself, I'm going to have trouble because I used to get sick a lot with upper respiratory. And if I couldn't go outside, who was going to water my garden? So one day I asked my daughter to garden. She was just a kid, but old enough to water a garden. And I saw her doing it with a look of despair on her face, like she hated doing it. So I'm saying to myself, she's never going to be a gardener. But look at her now.
Gardening away, gardening in New York.
That's right. Raising him, doing that.
So grow your garden, plant your seeds. Hopefully we planted some seeds of health
Feed
in
your
some
kids.
people. Feed your kids right, teach them right,
Yeah.
and then they won't have diabetes and have to have strokes and cancer and all those nasties that are floating around us now. So we're going to sign off. Please remember to like the videos, subscribe to the channel, share the videos, follow for more. They are coming.